Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you and welcome to this awesome free monthly webinar. Every month we put together a webinar with action-packed information, and the best part, it's completely free. Actually, I don't know if the best part is it's free. I think the best part is the awesome information. These webinars are the first Tuesday of each month, and they start at 5:30 Mountain Standard Time. All right, let's go ahead and get going. That's not letting me switch my... Oh, here we go. So my name is Kevin Amolsch. I've been investing in real estate for the past 15 years. Got a little over 150 deals done as a buyer or a seller and almost 950 private money loans completed since I started. Got over 30 rental properties and I'm currently developing 70 townhomes in Denver. I became a hard money lender in early 2006 and I started Pine Financial in 2008. Pine Financial, for those of you that don't know, is the leading hard money lender in Colorado and Minnesota, and we're quickly becoming a leader in the DC metro area. We have access to over 50 million in private capital, and we have zero debt. I think Travis might talk a little bit more about what specifically we do and how the loan works and how we could work with you guys. But I want to talk about this webinar today. So we're going to be talking about the top 10 mistakes that investors make, and this is something that Travis and I see as a hard money lender come through our office, the mistakes that we see our investors and our clients making, and we really want to try to help you guys stop making these mistakes and improve your bottom line. You know, it's not the sexiest topic, although we still have close to 100 people on the call today. It's not the sexiest topic, and we get that. But look, if you can prevent the mistakes and stop making these common mistakes, you'll not only have longevity in the business, but you're going to be extremely profitable. So we're extremely lucky today to have Travis Spear with us, and I say lucky to have whoever the guest is because we really are. You know, we're lucky to even be doing these webinars. So I feel fortunate to have worked with Travis for the past, Travis, been like 7 years now. He is one of the smartest people I've ever met, and you're going to pick up on that through this webinar today. So I'm going to go ahead and let Travis jump in. We're going to go back and forth. This isn't him give the presentation or me. We're going to both combine for it. So I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for the opportunity, and thanks to everybody that can join us on the call today. As Kevin mentioned, we started working together about 7 years ago after he started Pine Financial as hard money lenders, and we'll just give you a real quick note on how the loan works. What we do is as a hard money lender, we'll finance 100% of your deal up to 70% of the after repaired value. A lot of our clients are getting in with zero money down. People are using this loan to fix and flip, to buy, fix, and refinance, keep as rental property, as well as new construction. Funding a ton of new construction here in the Denver market, as well as the other markets that Kevin mentioned, Minnesota Twin Cities and the DC area. So we're excited to give this presentation tonight. Kevin kind of gave you a rundown of his experience. He's got a tad bit more experience than I do, and I've learned a lot from him. I personally have 11 rental properties. I'm working on building 8 new construction units right now, and I've looked at probably over 400 deals as either lender, landlord, agent, fix and flip, developer, etc. So the top 10 investor mistakes, as Kevin mentioned, are sometimes you might not even realize these mistakes are out there, but they're good to keep in the back of your mind so you can do well on your projects. With that said, let's jump in, Kevin.
Yeah, I also want to say this. You know, Travis, you and I started working right after I started the company. So really, you and I have been doing this for a long time together. And these webinars and our happy hours and our classes, this isn't just me doing this. I want to make sure that you know that I really appreciate you and what you've done for the company. And that make sure all the guests and the people that are attending know that you really are the brains behind a lot of this that we're doing. So I just want to say I appreciate that.
Thanks,
and I think
Kevin.
this is your first slide here, so you want to go ahead and take off with this?
Very good, thank you. This is probably one of the most common, although actually as we get through this, we're probably going to say most common pretty often to these mistakes. Buying a property without a clear exit strategy. Unfortunately, we see this time and time again, and let me just dive into a little bit of details. When you're going to do a deal, you have to know, even when you're making your offer, what your end strategy is with the property. Whether it's to fix it and flip it, buy it, fix it, rent it out, or even to scrape something and rebuild. I just want to give a quick example here of somebody just recently that I saw get hurt by this. They bought a property in a part of town that is an okay flip part of town and maybe a better rental, They bought the property. They did a high-level rehab on it, although it wasn't a super expensive house, about $130,000. They did a high level of rehab on it because they intended to buy, fix, and flip this property. So they did a high level of rehab. They listed the property higher than it originally appraised for with our after repaired appraisal. Didn't get a ton of traffic on it going into a slow time of year, and decided to refinance the property and keep it as a rental. The biggest mistake you see here is that if you're going to do a flip, you're going to do a much higher level of rehab than you are a rental. For instance, the stainless steel appliances, the granite countertops, some of the finishes, three-tone paint, different doors, windows, etc. So they made a really nice house, only then to turn around and rent it out. Why do we fix rentals a little bit lower quality than fix and flips? Well, because the chances are if you hold it for a long period of time, you're going to have to make some repairs to that, and you're going to achieve the same rent whether you have a very high-end finish or even a medium finish in good rental areas. So then he decided he was going to refinance it. The refinance appraisal came in lower than what he had it listed for, and so because he went over on the budget and the refinance appraisal came in lower, he had a bunch of money into the deal. Where if on the front end he knew he was going to buy it and refinance it to hold it, he could have done lower level of repairs and had much less capital into the deal. As another quick example, I took a call from a guy recently who was having trouble comping out a property, and I asked him, well, why are you having so much trouble? You already bought this. What did you use when you bought it? His intention was to scrape the house and rebuild a new construction single-family house, and somewhere through the process found that that wasn't going to work. So he probably overpaid for the house because he was trying to get the dirt to do new construction, and found that that didn't work. That's why due diligence and having a clear exit strategy is so important in our business. Even on the buy and hold, you want to make sure that you're pre-approved for that refinance. The last thing you want to do is be in a hard money loan with a tenant in place and not be able to get that refinance done because you're going to take a discount on your resale with a tenant in place. Go on to the next one.
Yeah, that was a lot of good information. I also want to point out that I've seen people that are wholesaling deals actually close on them and then not have a buyer, or their buyer has backed out after they closed on it. So there's some mistakes made with that too, and you could just be careful by making sure that you don't close unless you have your buyer absolutely locked in. And I don't think either one of us mentioned this, but this is an interactive call. So if you have questions, please ask. I don't know how it looks on your guys' screen, but I think you type it in and it'll show up on ours. We'll read it off to everybody, and then we'll go ahead and answer your question. So feel free to ask as we go. Okay, the next mistake is paying cash. And it's interesting, this one's interesting because I get a lot of pushback on this, and I don't think that everyone agrees with me. In fact, there was a controversial article, I guess you can call it, in the Las Vegas Review-Journal, which is a major publication in Las Vegas. And I'm not sure how I got interviewed for that paper. We do zero business in Nevada. But they called me because my opinion on this was fairly strong, and interviewed me, and I was quoted in that paper. And part of the problem, there's two big issues here with paying for cash. First of all, getting the cash back out if you decide to keep it as a rental, for example, is very challenging. And I don't know if there's mortgage brokers or lenders on the call. They'll probably disagree with me, but here's why I say it's challenging. You can do a cash out refinance conventionally with no title seasoning, meaning you don't have to be on title for any set period of time. The problem with that is most lenders, especially in the conventional world, are going to only loan a percentage of your purchase price. They're going to use your price you paid for it as the value. And we're looking at 70 on a rental property, probably 70, maybe 75% of the value is your loan. So although, yes, you can get some of your cash back out if you have phenomenal credit, great income, all of the stuff that you need to qualify for loans these days, but you're not going to get all of your money back. So some of your money will likely be trapped into that deal for 6 to 12 months, and that will slow your progress if you're in an acquisition or a growth mode. And I think a lot of us on this call are in growth mode, or we wouldn't be trying to learn more about real estate. So that would be one reason I think paying cash for a deal is a mistake. The second one, and this one is probably more important. Have you guys ever seen the signs on the side of the road that say accident ? Call me, and it's an attorney? I got one that right on my way home from the office every single day, It says ski accident. So we're in Colorado and there's a lot of skiing and snowboarding here, and ski accident, call me out. Let's go sue somebody together. And what these attorneys are doing is they're trying to pick up cases on a contingent fee. And what that means is they will only collect, or they will only get paid if they're able to collect money. So yeah, you might have gotten a car accident or a ski accident or whatever the problem is, a slip and fall, any of that. But if you don't have money to collect and they sue you and they get a judgment, the attorneys won't make anything. They only, again, they only get paid if they're able to collect money. So they need to do two things. They need to get the judgment and collect on it. The reason I think that's important is because if you appear broke, attorneys probably aren't going to sue you. So that's why we use things like entities and asset protection strategies, which we're going to talk a little bit more about later tonight as well. But if you pay cash for a house, there's no other asset that is more transparent than real estate. You could do a name search on somebody or a real estate search, and you could literally find every property that they own that has no loans on it, or every property they own and all the loans that they have on it. So if you're out there with free and clear property, you're just showing the world that you have assets and you have a big target on your back that says, come sue me. If you have a lien on the property and a loan against it, you're taking a lot less risk and a lot less exposure. Do you have anything to add to that one?
No, really great points there. The other thing I would just mention is, as you said, that if people are in the growth stage in their business, like most people probably are, if you're out doing a lot of deals, is this business can be capital intensive. So if you go and buy a property for all cash, then you could limit yourself from being able to do another deal. If another great opportunity comes across your desk and you don't have the opportunity to do that deal because you just bought a property for cash, and as Kevin mentioned, it could take you some time to get that cash back out of the property, then you could miss out on opportunities. And if we're out there looking to do a lot of deals, then we should probably have some capital available.
Yeah, and this is something else I just thought of. Another reason I don't like paying cash for houses. You can't. First of all, you can't spend equity. I know a lot of people are millionaires on paper. I've been one, and then I've gone broke. You can't pay your bills with equity, right? And equity doesn't appreciate. The real estate's going to appreciate whether you have a lien on it or not, the same. So you might hear people say, well, you're earning a 0% return on your equity, and that's absolutely true. I think banks are genius. You know, they can go out and borrow money right now. They could borrow money for free. But in a typical market, they might pay 1% or 2%, let's say, for money, and they loan it to you on a car loan for 6 or 7%. So they're making what we call in the business a spread of 4, 5, 6%, whatever that number is. And banks do really, really well with that. So it's not uncommon for investors like you and I to do something similar to that and borrow money against real estate at low rates, 4%, for example, and maybe loan it out or go buy another property that we're going to earn 10, 12, 15 or more percent. So that would be another reason why you might not want to lock up some cash in equity in a property.
And just real quick, somebody buzzed in with a question there, Kevin, asking, but what about using it as cross-collateral or cross-collateralizing maybe a free and clear property? You want to touch on that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I don't think that that's the best way to do it, frankly. If you have a free and clear property, I would definitely encumber it quickly. I would use a tool that, a HELOC would be a great tool for that. And then you could use your HELOC as down payments if that's what you need on other projects that you're working on. But if you do, we're actually working on a deal right now where the lady has a free and clear property, and she's going to finance another one that's not quite a good enough deal for us to finance 100% of it. And we're just going to put a lien on both properties and give her all the money that she needs. So absolutely, if you have free and clear property, it opens up the opportunity to cross-collateralize. However, if you had a HELOC on it or another loan on it with cash in the bank, you could accomplish the exact same thing.
Without encumbering both properties, without putting the lender in a better position. Great point.
Yeah, you'd probably have two different lenders, so you would encumber both, but it wouldn't be cross-collateralized with one loan on two liens. That's inefficient in my opinion.
Cool. Thanks, Kevin. Offering cash when you don't have any. We see this all the time. A lot of people, even some of the people we work with, consider hard money to be cash, but the fact is that hard money is not cash. And in order to work with the title company, they're going to require that the offer is financed in order for a lender to work on that deal. So even though it kind of operates like cash in the way that we can close quickly and there's not a lot of weight put on the current condition or current value of the house, when you offer cash, the title company's job is to follow instructions, and the instructions is the contract. So when they receive that contract and then you reach out to them and say, hey, here's my lender information, Pine Financial, they're going to say, oh, well, we have this as a cash deal, so we can't use them unless you amend the contract to financing. If you've made a cash offer to your seller and now you want to come back and say, hey, we're going to use financing, they could be discouraged by that because they had thought that if somebody was offering cash, you're going to close quickly with no contingencies. One thing that we've seen people be able to do is you can offer cash, and in part of the contract where it gives you additional provisions, you could add things like, although buyers offering cash, they have the ability to use financing so long as it does not adversely affect the seller or something to that effect. But I think that now hard money or our type of financing is pretty widely accepted. You should offer it as financing. On most contracts, you could check the other box and then write in hard or private money financing and include a lender letter. If the agent's not comfortable with that type of financing, have them give your lender a call and let that lender explain to them that you make loans on investment property and that you don't have a lot of conditions and the current condition or value of the property isn't important to you. You're more worried about what it's going to be worth on the back end. So sometimes that can help you. The last thing you want to do is tell your agent you're making cash offers, title company thinks it's cash, the seller thinks it's cash, and then you bring your lender into it to find out that you made the offer incorrectly. Not only are you at risk of losing your earnest money in that situation, there's a number of people that that's going to look bad to, and they might be upset with you and not want to work with you in the future.
So we get a lot of questions in our classes, Travis, about this one, and people want to offer cash despite what you just told them that you don't necessarily need to. So I want to go into a little bit more detail here. So everybody understands this, can you talk about if you do offer cash, how to write that offer, and in the additional provisions section, give them the term that you just said slowly so they could take it in their notes, write it down so that they can offer cash if that's what they choose to do.
Sure, absolutely. So in that additional provisions, and you're going to use something to this effect, paraphrasing a little bit, but something to the effect of although buyers offering cash, they have the ability to use financing so long as it does not adversely affect the seller. And when you put that in and you get to the title company and they say, hey, I see you offer cash, say, well, why don't you scroll down there to the additional provisions and see that I do have the ability to use financing as long as it doesn't adversely affect the seller. In what ways could offering cash and then using financing adversely affect the seller? Well, if you had to extend the closing date, or all of a sudden you had a bunch of conditions. But if you're writing your contracts correctly, I don't think that should be an issue for you, and you should still be able to get to the closing table. I still do think the best way is to offer financing and check that other box, private or hard money, and just make sure you thoroughly explain to your agent and or the listing agent or the seller, if you're working directly with the seller, exactly the type of financing you use and the relationship you have with your lender, and let them call that lender and get the comfort that they need to move forward with your offer.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you said that. Exactly. We were more than happy as a lender to take that phone call from the listing agent, walk them through how our business works, walk them through explaining that we have the cash available, we don't have debt, we're not relying on any loans, and that we close 100% of the time when we commit to a deal. So we do have those conversations, and oftentimes with positive results. I do also want to mention, this is a good time to mention this, we don't charge fees unless we close on a deal. Okay, the only time you get charged before closing is to pay for an appraisal if we get that far. So it's free for you to apply, and it's free for you to get those loan commitment letters that Travis was talking about. So if you are out there making offers, it does improve your chances of getting a deal if you have money behind you. So we're happy to show that you have money behind you with that loan commitment letter. And also, this is a good time to point this out. This is a common mistake that is not in here that I'm thinking about right now. Just because we offer no money down loans does not mean you should have no money. I don't know if you want to touch on that at all, Travis, or you want me to run with that one, but we see that quite often, don't we?
Sure, yeah, and kind of as we mentioned earlier, when you pay cash for a property, that this business can be capital intensive. So we can fund 100% of your deal, but what we really rely on is for the borrower to have some reserves for a number of reasons. We want to see that they have the ability to roll with the punches. If you get into a deal and you weren't expecting to replace a sewer line, roof, or furnace, we don't have that money escrowed for you, so we want to make sure that you have the ability to handle that. If you hold it a little longer than you expected to, go over the repair budget, or something else happens on the deal, we want to make sure that you have some money to roll with the punches. Our requirement is a minimum of $10,000 or 7.5% of the loan amount liquid. This would be checking, savings, brokerage accounts, excuse me, but we do not qualify retirement funds. So although you can get in with no money down, you do need to have some reserves to be able to roll with the punches in the deal.
Yeah, or bring in a partner that has some reserves and share the deal, which I think I probably just jumped ahead because I think that's one of our slides. I just get so excited. Okay. So another common mistake is adding money to a bad deal. So this is when most common here is when we're chasing earnest money. Real estate is a pretty emotional business. And when you have skin into the deal in the form of earnest money or any money, frankly, and the deal starts to go south, it is not uncommon to feel some emotion about that and want to protect that money. So we see frequently where somebody will uh, put up additional earnest money to get an extension, or they might do an extension fee on a contract, on a deal, for example, where we denied it because we didn't think there was enough profit in there for our client. And then they'll go shop around for a loan from another lender, or they'll go try to raise some money from their uncle or their aunt or somebody else that's more of a private lending source. And the problem is, if you're chasing the bad deal with more money, you're going to end up losing more money. So I think it's a good skill to have as a real estate investor, to be able to walk away from a little bit of cash on a bad deal. Now, should you ever have money at risk on a deal before you close on it? Absolutely not. Sometimes you'll see this with wholesalers, but if you're out there making offers to sellers directly or through the MLS with a realtor, you should always have contingencies in your contract to get out of that contract without risking your earnest money. The most common contingency that we see to save this is your inspection contingency. Now, it's common for us to see 7 to a 10-day inspection period. Some investors that are a bit more aggressive and can move quickly will shrink that to 3 to 5 days. I do see that on occasion. But when you're talking about a 3, 5, 7, whatever that time period is, at the end of that last day, your earnest money is hard and it is at risk. You will lose that if you don't close. So you need to get all of your diligence, including your loan approval with us, done in that period. Now, for us, our biggest concern is your profitability, so we want to really focus on the value of the property once it's fixed up. So we will likely do an appraisal on the deal, and the appraisal might take 3 to 5 days, and we can't do the appraisal until we get your scope of work or your budget. So it's imperative for you to get us something that shows us what work you're going to do to the property within a day or two, so we don't risk your earnest money. Want to add
Yeah,
anything to that
really.
one?
Yeah, no, I mean there's great points there. Just to take it a tad bit further, what we sometimes see is exactly what Kevin mentioned. Chasing that earnest money is that, for everyone on the call, the amount of money you're willing to risk is different. For some people, $1,000 is a lot of money, and for some people, it might be $10,000. But the fact is, when you have that earnest money down, and then you find out this property had structural damage, or the repairs were going to be much higher than you expected, or you weren't going to hit the value that you thought you were, or maybe you're not going to be pre-approved for that refinance to hold it as a rental property, it'd be much, much better to let that $1,000 go than to get through the deal, fix it up, do all of the work, holding costs, everything, get on the market, and resell it to then lose money 6 months from now. It's not fun, but you got to let that one go and move on to the next deal.
Oh, I got another good one. Sometimes we see clients overprice their property, don't we?
Oh yeah,
And so
absolutely.
they'll list it on the market because they're thinking that they're going to hit the top value because they did a phenomenal rehab, but they're priced outside where the comps will even support, and they're not going to get the offer that they wanted. But they're so greedy, gosh darn it, that they keep making those loan payments and they keep paying those utilities and they keep doing that month after month after month without dropping the price to where it's supposed to be to get that thing sold. I really think you need to have a plan in place. This is part of your exit strategy, that if you don't sell it by a certain date, that you drop the price. And it's common for successful investors to drop it every week or 2 weeks and have a set schedule to drop that to make sure that they get that price right. Look, it is not easy to price real estate, even with the help of your professional real estate investor or your professional real estate agents and realtors. They screw it up too. So we all do it. But if you don't get it right out of the gate, you need to adjust that price quickly and not keep paying those holding costs and just move on to another deal.
Yep, great points there. So being broke and stingy, this sometimes people laugh at this one, but you have to be willing to bring in a partner to share the profit sometimes. Oftentimes we might have somebody who is very, very good at finding properties, but maybe they don't meet our reserve requirement. And instead of trying to find someone to partner on that deal or a couple deals with them, build up their reserves and get out to the business on their own, they instead try to continue to get deals done on their own and usually aren't successful at doing that. I have a couple of examples to share with you on this. We had a client a couple years ago. She made an offer on a property. It was a smoking deal, but she just didn't have the money to get the deal done. So what we did was said, hey, look, you have this deal, and it's a pretty good deal. Why don't we help you wholesale it? We made one phone call to one of our really good clients. We said, hey, we've got somebody who's got this wholesale deal. Here's the price. And they said, yeah, let me look at the house. You know, that afternoon they got back to us and said, yeah, this is a good deal right here. I'll take it. So what we did was to help that client who was very new to the business and wanted to do a fix and flip but didn't have the ability to do it, wholesale the deal. She made $10,000 on that deal, which is actually, as I mentioned previous, our reserve requirement. So by wholesaling that deal, making a quick 10 grand, our client got a good deal. She made money on it. Now she had the ability to move forward and do deals on her own and have the reserves required that she didn't have previous. So don't be afraid to make a little bit on a deal, but put some money in the bank and move on and let someone else make the big bucks than to miss out on the deal altogether. Another example, this was a deal that I did earlier this year, actually started in 2014, we finished it in 2015. I had this guy come to me, he had this condo that he made a note on. He was a hard money lender and the guy defaulted on the deal. And his loan amount was a little over $100,000. He was willing to sell the note to me for $55,000. This was right when I was getting ready to get some construction financing, so I needed to keep my reserves in place so I could get through that closing. One day I was sitting there in the office and said, man, this is a really good deal, but I'd hate to pass on it. I wonder if there's somebody I could partner with. Well, Justin in our office says, well, you know, I've got a little bit of money in a self-directed IRA. Maybe we could do that. So what we did was I brought Justin into the deal. He was able to buy the note in his IRA for $55,000. And I told him, hey, here's the deal. Once I get through this construction financing, I'll have the reserves or the money to do the repairs. So let's buy the note, we foreclose on the borrower, and then if we get to construction, I'll cover all of the construction costs. Sure enough, we bought the note for $55,000. We got through the foreclosure. I got through my construction financing, and now we own the property. We did about $30,000 in repairs, catching up the HOA, taxes, that type of stuff. So now we are into it for about $85,000. We turned around, did the work, and resold it just a couple months later for $170,000. So after our costs, we netted each about $35,000 on the deal. He did his in his IRA, so his money was all tax-free right back to his retirement account, and I was able to make the difference in the cash. So here was a deal that came across my desk. It would have been a difficult one to wholesale because it would have been challenging to find somebody who understood the foreclosure process enough to get the deal done. I shared the deal with a partner who did really well on it, and I was able to make some money along the way. So if you don't have the ability right in the beginning to do the deal, all you have to do is take the time, find your partner, bring somebody on, make the money on the deal, and then be able to do more deals after that.
Yeah, that sounds like such an awesome deal. I'm glad I was invited to participate in that one.
Time and place.
That was a funny story, but you know, the three of us participated in that 7-unit project together, and frankly, because we went bank financing, I don't know if any of the three of us could have taken that down on our own, but together the three of us were able to get that one done, and we made a significant amount of money on that one also. So yeah, partners definitely help with this.
And certainly partners can be expensive in this business, just like hard money financing can be. But what do they say? Some of something is better than 100% of nothing, or something along those lines.
Yeah, something like that. That was close. That sounded good. All right, underestimating holding and closing costs. This one, I think I go into more detail here. So let's do this. I'm not sure how this is going to work. Neither one of us are very tech savvy here, but if you go to pinefinancialgroup.com and click on resources, so can you see, Travis, can you see my screen right there? Can you see my thing?
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to try this. This is what the form looks like. If you guys open up a web browser and go to pinefinancialgroup.com, and then resources, of course, is right on the menu bar up here. If you click here, I thought the internet was going to go out just then. I was like, oh, that'd be perfect timing, huh? All right, then you want to go to MAO, or maximum offer worksheet. So your MAO is your maximum allowable offer. So if we click on this, it's going to pull up the worksheet in a PDF that you could just print off. And if you come to any of our classes, you'll know that I'm a big advocate of using a pen and this worksheet, because a pen does not erase. And once you come to this bottom line, which is what you should be offering on the property, that number doesn't change. And so it helps take the emotion out of the deal. So what we're going to be working on now, what I want to show you, is how to estimate the closing and the holding costs. So the closing cost is this formula here, maximum loan times 4%, which is our origination. And in this one, it has 1,500. So you're going to be somewhere between 1,500 and 2,500 in flat fees. This is going to be a flat administration fee, and then all of your title and recording fees. Okay, so this is the formula we're going to go through, and then the holding cost is in a different the profit method. So it's a different method to come up with your offer, and this is going through how much money you want to make, is why this one is really cool. But I separated the holding costs in this box so that you can estimate that when you're coming up with your offers. So let me go back, now that you all know how to get that worksheet, and you might have it up already. Let's go through this, if this works. So to calculate the closing cost, you're going to take your maximum loan. That starts with your ARV. ARV, of course, is after repaired value. Everything we do in this business starts with that number. And that's a pretty elusive number, so maybe we're going to do another webinar on how to come up with that number. But for now, let's just say it's 300,000 times 70%, so your loan is 210,000. That's how much you're going to borrow. So I bring that number down here to calculate the closing costs. Okay, multiply that times 4%. I add $2,000. It's going to be close to that on a $300,000 deal, and I come up with the closing costs of $10,400. So it's really a pretty simple formula, but people unfortunately underestimate this cost, and it does sneak up on you. Holding costs. So first, before you start this, you really need to think about how long you're going to be holding it. So we have the construction, we have the time it's going to take to get it under contract, and we have the time it's going to take to close. And in Colorado, and I'm seeing it some in Minnesota too, we haven't done enough for me to comment on DC, but in those other two markets, we do see a pretty high percent of our clients get it under contract, and the contract falls through because of financing or timing or whatever the issue is. So not always will your first contract close. So I think you should be conservative and budget for a little bit longer of a holding time in case you have to get it under contract a second time. In this example, I'm going to use 6 months. So I'm just going to put a 6 month down the line here. And what I'm doing is I'm going to multiply every holding cost that is involved in a deal by 6 months. So the first thing we're going to do is interest. And for those of you that don't know how I calculate that, let me walk you through it. It's the loan amount times 15%, 1.5, and then I divide that by 12. And this, of course, is using hard money. That might change depending on your financing. Typically, hard money and private money lenders are going to charge you what is called simple interest, which is not amortized. So it's going to be an interest-only payment. So it's a real easy calculation. You just multiply the interest rate times the loan, and you divide by 12. Okay, and then you multiply it by the number of months, and we're going to get 15,750. Now, sometimes I get the question, well, what if my lender's not collecting payments, or what if it's buried into the loan, or however that works. There is some lenders that defer payments. I think that's crazy for both us and you, which we could talk about if you like. But if you're not making payments, that doesn't mean it's not a cost to you. You're still going to have to eventually pay that, so it's still important to include that here. Okay, HOA, in this specific example that I'm using, there was no HOA fees. HOA, again, is, or of course, is homeowners association. And if you are in an association or a covenant controlled area, typically you'll have monthly or quarterly fees that are involved. So in this example, there is no fees. Insurance, which I don't think I have enough time to go on my rant. I usually go on a rant about insurance because unfortunately insurance agents sometimes don't understand vacant properties and fix and flips, and they sell you the wrong policy. So let's just say this. I'll leave it at this. You want to make sure that your agent is sophisticated enough and works with fix and flip investors if you're doing fix and flips. You do not want a landlord policy here. What we're looking for is a builder's risk policy or a vacant property policy. They're basically the same thing, except for one of them has liability coverage and one does not. So it depends if you're using a contractor that has their own liability insurance typically. I'm not the insurance expert, so I would recommend you calling a competent insurance agent. If you don't have that, go to our website and click on Pine Recommends, and there should be somebody on there that we know works with real estate investors. In this example, 150 times 6 is 900. Taxes you can get from the county websites, and then just divide the annual by 12 and get the monthly, and then again multiply by 6. Utilities in the winter, especially Minnesota, my goodness, you're going to have a higher utility bill to keep those warm. You don't want frozen pipes. So you have heat, you have electricity. Depending on the level of rehab, you may have a trash service. Typically, we don't see that because we'll have a roll-off dumpster. But you do have, what else do you have? You have sewer, you have water, you have gas, you have electric. So in this case, it's the summertime, it's 150 a month times 6. Okay, $900, you just add that all together, and that's how you come up with your holding costs. So no mistakes here, guys, because I'm giving you the form for free. If you go to pinefinancialgroup.com, click on resources, download the form, and that's how you run the numbers.
Very good. Thanks, Kevin, for the details there. Becoming emotionally attached to the deal. This never happens, right? Everything is sticks and bricks. We stick to the numbers, we stick to the deal, we stick to the strategy. Unfortunately, this doesn't always happen. People get into a deal and they become emotionally attached, and maybe they think, oh, well, this is a really nice house, so I want to do X to it, when maybe only the comps only support Formica tops, but you want to put really nice quartz in there, or I only buy houses where I live, or I only like this style of kitchen or this style of home. We have to be careful with that as investors, because when we get emotionally attached to a deal, there's too much of an opportunity to lose money on that deal. So when we create the after repaired value, we look at our comps, we look at our competition, and we rehab the house to fit that. We don't over improve the house in an expectation that some nice family's really going to like this Viking $5,000 Viking stove when it's a $130,000 house. So we just have to stick to the numbers on the deal, make sure it's a deal that makes sense, and get it done. This could also be attached to the putting more money into a bad deal. For instance, when Kevin was talking about chasing earnest money, because you think, oh, I've really got to get this deal done. I know it'll sell for more. I know this is a great neighborhood, but you get away from the science or the data that tells you exactly the numbers that you need, and instead start putting your emotions into it and potentially over improve the house, or hold on to it for too long, or have some grand plan that will ultimately won't yield you any money. I don't know about you guys, but I don't do this business for community service. I do this to be able to make money in real estate, and hopefully it's always profitable, but we have some control over this one, so we want to make sure we do exactly what makes sense for the deal.
And you know something, Travis, you and I give each other advice a lot, and usually it's terrible. No, I'm only kidding. Usually your advice is fantastic. Mine's probably terrible. But I gave you some advice when you and I first started working together early on, within the first year, I think, and you were buying your own primary home. Does that sound familiar?
Yep, yep.
So, and I remember that it really resonated with you, and it seemed like such a simple concept, but it was something that you were really struggling with, and you're so good at not getting emotionally attached to a deal that you were losing sleep because you weren't getting the perfect deal for your own primary home. And I just want to make sure that people understand, just because it resonated with you, maybe it's not as obvious to everybody else. When you're buying a primary home, you're not buying an investment, right? You're buying something for you and your family to live in. So it might be okay to have a little emotion come in that type of purchase, but absolutely leave it out when you're talking about an investment.
Yeah, great point. Too, a lot of times we see people want to get a great deal on their personal residence, but also be in the great school district and a good commute and a good place where their family's going to be comfortable and enough bedrooms and bathrooms. And sometimes we do have to give that up in order to get what makes sense for us personally. Absolutely. Thanks, Kevin.
All right, incorrect use of entities. Now, I am not an attorney, and I'm not giving legal advice. I think I'm supposed to say that, and I could talk about this for an entire weekend. I absolutely love entities, the different types, how they're taxed, how they shelter you from liability, and all of that. But I should have wrote some things down on this one because I could keep going on this one. But let me just say a couple of things that I see a lot, and then Travis, if you could help me out and jump in with some of the things you see. But in several states across the country, they allow single member LLCs, and CPAs absolutely love the single member LLC. And the reason for that is it gives you the asset protection, sort of, having the corporate shield, but it's not taxed. There's no impact on taxes at all. So it's completely set aside, and all of your income shows up on a Schedule C. So that is a huge advantage for taxes. But what I see a lot of times is these single member LLCs are set up by CPAs. And the problem, you guys, is CPAs are not attorneys, and you shouldn't be taking legal advice from a CPA. The CPA is likely setting up the LLC with the Secretary of State with whatever state you're in, and that's it. And they're calling it good. They're not putting together any minutes or meetings. They're not putting together an operating agreement. And frankly, if you get sued and you're in front of a judge, you don't have the appropriate corporate documents, your LLC is worthless anyways. So why spend $50 or $150 a year on this company when it's not even being run as a company? I think you need to take legal advice from an attorney and tax advice from a CPA. And we do have a fantastic referral that is actually an attorney and a CPA on our website. And that would be someone that I would consider talking to when you start doing your entity structures. Maybe they're a little expensive for tax preparation. Actually, I don't know that because I don't use them for that. I use them to review taxes and get legal advice. But definitely get advice for them for setting up the entities. So no operating agreement on an LLC is a big mistake. Another mistake is I see people buy properties in an LLC or corporation that they plan to keep as a rental. Now, we've had some success with this. In fact, I think we're doing one right now, which Travis, you and I are both a little nervous about. But if you buy it in an LLC and try to refinance it, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they don't like that. And I know Wells Fargo on their portfolio loans, if there was a property titled in the name of an LLC at any point in time, they will not finance that. So, and then I know Fannie and Freddie won't finance it if it's currently in an LLC, but we have had some success deeding it out of the company into a personal name and then getting the refinance done. So I think it's a mistake to start in the company if your plan is to hold it. You're a better way to go, unless you're in DC, which we could talk about because you don't have the choice. But if you're in Minnesota or Colorado, a better way to go is just buy the thing in your primary name, fix it up, and then refinance it and put it into the permanent loan. So those are the two big mistakes that I see with LLCs and corporations. I guess the third one would be not having one at all, which I think I talk about that in 2 slides. I keep jumping ahead of myself here. I just get so excited about this.
One other thing that I'll add here that Kevin touched on was running your business as a business, which includes having a bank account in the name of your business and depositing checks correctly and using that account correctly. Oftentimes we see somebody who has a business account, but they're paying their cable bill out of it and going to dinner multiple times or out to eat multiple times a day, which could fall in the entertainment. But I think that
Redbox.
Redbox, yeah, that's the other one. You see these Redbox charges, and you're wondering, I wonder what client they got the Redbox movie with to watch. Maybe it was an HGTV special. I don't know, but when you live out of your bank account, if you do run into a scenario and you have all of your other ducks in a row, you have your entity set up correctly, your operating agreement, your minutes, etc. But then they start digging into bank statements and see that you're living out of that bank account, that could, in some cases, pierce that corporate veil and not give you the entity protection. If you need to take some money out of your business, just write yourself a check and take it as a draw, and that way you won't run into the issues of spending money out of your business account that is not for business reasons. This is something that we see time and time again, and it's so important not to be living out of it, out of your business account. It's a business. You need to run it like a business, and if you don't, there's a chance to get hurt on that. So just very important there.
Yeah, not to mention tax fraud.
Yeah, well, there is that.
I mean, yeah, if you're writing off all your personal expenses, I mean, gosh, we maybe we all do it. I don't know, but if it's right out of the account and it's a red box, come on, you guys, that is clearly not a business expense, and it will pierce the veil. So I'll go a step further than Travis did and say, if you're commingling, that will cause a problem for you, both with the asset protection and with the tax consequences.
And just as a quick reminder, you guys can punch in some questions if something we covered you wanted just a tad bit more detail on. We had one question pop up, and if anyone else out there is wondering something, go ahead and punch it in there. It'd be much better to ask a question now than to send an email later. We'd prefer just to answer that for everyone. Biting off more than you can chew. This is one that we just saw recently, just in the last couple of days. Had a client, he was doing his very first deal. It was an okay deal. He got the deal done, probably made some money on it. Pretty quickly after he closed on that deal, he wanted to do another deal and wanted us to finance him. The deal wasn't very strong, and we wanted to see him get through his first deal before taking on this pretty large project. He didn't take our advice of passing on the deal and went ahead and got it funded with another lender. He got through the first deal we funded just fine, but it was just a couple weeks ago he was emailing us and asking us, hey, I want to completely change my strategy on this. Instead of doing a flip, fixing up the house and reselling it, I'm now going to scrape the house and do a new construction project on the existing foundation. Going back to the first slide of knowing your exit strategy is very important, but now we're seeing that he got into 2 deals at once and got into a deal that was going to require significantly more in repairs than he had expected, had some trouble with a contractor, and was running low on reserves, so was looking for a partner to bail him out of this scenario. Now, if you think to yourself, if you're an investor too, and you want to take a look at what is available to what kind of deals you can invest in, and somebody brings this to you, it might look like, oh, there's an opportunity to make some money here, but you're looking at maybe somebody who doesn't have enough experience to be doing a deal like that. And very, very important. We say this somewhat jokingly, but mostly serious. The very worst thing that can happen for somebody on their very first deal is that they make $50,000 and they're just so happy they've got all this money and they think, man, that was easy. I did one deal, I made 50 grand. I can handle one deal. Now I can handle 6 deals at a time without the experience of scaling that business. Now, this business is a business you can make a lot of money in, but you need to be careful when you grow. Managing 2 properties is significantly different than 1. So managing 5 is significantly different than 2. Make sure you are building the right team to make your business scalable, and make sure that you're taking on the right amount of risk for yourself as you continue in your business, so that you don't get buried by a deal that was too challenging or maybe you didn't have the right ability to handle.
I got to go back. I'm sorry, Travis. I just have to go back to this slide. Are you okay with that? Are you done with that slide? I can't get this out of my mind right now. People, I get asked every single time I start talking about entities. I get this question. Well, my attorney or whoever advised me to do 1 LLC per rental property to separate everything up. Okay, and here's the problem with that, you guys. That the attorneys, oftentimes, and I might offend somebody here, and I actually have a habit of doing that, so I'm just going to say it anyway. Attorneys are not business people. They're really good at the law, and they're really good at protecting you. And the problem with that oftentimes is twofold. First of all, they kill a lot of deals because they think that it's too risky. And 2, they make things so ridiculously complicated that you can't even function. The perfect example is the LLC per property. Unless it's a big property with a lot of equity to protect, I would not advise this. And the reason is for the things that we've already talked about. You need to run each entity as its own separate entity. If you're trying to build a big portfolio like Travis and I are doing, having that many companies that you have to manage, that many sets of books, that many bank accounts, that many tax returns, that's just overwhelming. And frankly, it's not really a functional company. So I think that a better way to structure this, again, I am not an attorney, but a more efficient way to structure this is to hide ownership with a trust or something that does not have a set of books, and then have the owner of the trust your LLC, and then maybe you could do 4, 5, 6 properties in one LLC that way, keeping the title hidden through the trust, and then you could do maybe 2 or 3 LLCs, much easier to manage, more efficient business that way. So yes, some attorneys will tell you it's safer to do one LLC per property, and that is an accurate statement, but it makes business extremely difficult.
So we're getting a couple of questions coming in here, most of them asset protection related, so I'm just going to read them off, and I'm just going to give a quick answer so that we can keep time here, though. One of the questions was, how can you use your entity asset protection when buying a property in your personal name? The simple answer there is you can't. You need to buy the property in the entity, or you need to get your financing in place in your personal name and then move that property to an entity. You'll only get the protection, the asset protection, when the property is titled in the entity that's going to protect you on that. The next question real quick is, to transfer a rental property from my name to an entity, do I use a warranty deed? Is warranty deed better than quitclaim deed? This would be a great conversation to have with your title person, but yes, when you use a quitclaim deed, you're quitting your interest in the property, and likely the title insurance is not going to follow. If you use a warranty deed, then you're going to have better protection in moving forward, and that's something that a title company that could prepare for you pretty easily and record. One more question. He says, what about using land trusts, one per property? Kevin just touched on that, I think, suggesting that you might have multiple in each land trust and then have that flow into an LLC. If you plan to grow a portfolio of rental properties, is it best to have them under separate LLCs under one? Kevin just covered that at length. That covers those questions.
All right, we're talking about asset protection right now, so I'm just going to jump in and keep going on this if that's okay. We got like, what, 8 minutes left or something? It sounds like the questions are all clear. So another question I get a lot of times is the 2 members versus 1 member. The 1 member is definitely an easier way to go. So back to my how do you function as a business? The single member is going to be easier because you're agreeing with yourself. That's pretty easy to do usually, and then there's no tax return. Okay, but here's the problem with that. If the LLC gets sued, they can't penetrate through to you, whether it's a single member or a dual member. So we're getting a little technical here. But if the LLC is sued, they cannot get to the owners of the LLC if everything is done correctly, like we've been talking about. So you as a single member would be safe. Now, if the lawsuit comes the other direction, so you get sued in a car accident or a ski accident or something like that, everything you own is at risk, which could be your LLC if you're 100% owner. They can penetrate an LLC coming from that direction if it's a single member. A 2-member LLC, in order to protect the other member, a lawsuit or a judgment cannot penetrate that LLC. It can only collect on what was distributed to the members. So as a manager, one of the 2 members can stop distributions if there is a judgment. So you could protect yourself from a lawsuit coming the opposite direction, if I made any sense. Did that make any sense? Travis, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely it does. You have to have a decent handle on how all of this works to really follow that, but I think that's why it's important to have the right people on your team to draft those documents, follow them, and understand what, excuse me, what liability you still have out there and where you're protecting yourself.
And the point of all of this, of course, is make sure you have some asset protection in place. That's a mistake that we see people make. Insurance is by far the best way to protect your assets. So work with a competent agent and get enough liability protection to cover you. The state minimum for your auto is not enough insurance. The minimums that you see on your rental properties is not enough insurance. And when you start accumulating, like Travis and I have, you really are going to want to consider a liability, umbrella liability coverage to protect you. It's a lot easier to pay for a lawsuit when it's coming from the insurance company and not your pocket. And maybe you get sued because there's a big insurance company behind you. That does happen, but it's not coming out of your pocket. So definitely consider talking to an attorney about the LLCs and corporations, because that is huge. It's smart to look broke, but also make sure that you have enough insurance coverage.
Yeah, the entity is just one piece of it, and the umbrella policy can really help you. When I first was getting started, I had 3 or 4 properties. I got a $1 million umbrella policy for like $150 a year. Just recently, I increased that to $2 million a year when I had 10 rental properties, and I think it might cost me about $225 a year. Also increases your coverage on auto and your, of course, your properties and that type of stuff. Before we jump to the last one, a question here, Kevin, that I'll have you answer. The question is, investing with a self-directed IRA versus an S-Corp. I can only draw a salary from the S-Corp, right?
Oh gosh, we're talking about two completely different things here. The self-directed IRA can be structured a couple of different ways, and I'm assuming that they're talking about the single member LLC strategy. Maybe if he or she can explain that or expand on that a little. But you cannot take a salary from an IRA, absolutely not. You could take distributions from an IRA once you hit a certain age, but you cannot benefit personally from an IRA, or that's going to be a prohibited transaction, and the penalties are stiff for that, so you don't want to mess around with that. So I guess I don't totally understand the question, but if you're trying to draw a salary, you're going to want to use an S corporation, which is exactly how Pine Financial is set up. You can eliminate a lot of self-employment tax doing that. So once you are making some steady income, getting taxed as an S corporation is an extremely smart way to go.
And one thing we sometimes see is that some of the gurus will tell you, yeah, you should set up an S corp so you can miss out on some of those taxes that Kevin talked about. But the real challenge with that is if you're not creating any income in your entity that enough to take that draw, then you're going to be paying out money for all of these things to keep the S corp in order and not actually be able to pay yourself the salary. One other quick question that popped up here, am I correct in assuming that an umbrella policy does not cover the LLCs? That is, when you get an umbrella policy or even the policy on your rental properties, you're going to want to add your entity as a additionally insured. So especially if you're titled in your entity, you're going to want to make sure that your insurance covers that. So your umbrella policy, when working with the right insurance provider, will cover the entities or the properties that are held in the entities, but there's no coverage for not having your operating agreement in place or your correct documents in place.
All right, so we have one bonus one here before our time is up, and then we'll take whatever other questions there are. And frankly, Travis, there's not really a lot to say about this, is there? It's just, are you going to do it or not? We work with people all the time. We had a success summit in Denver, had 400 people there. We had a success summit in Minnesota. We had 150 people there. And our clients might be 5% or maybe even less because, frankly, people just don't take action.
Taking action, it can be a tough one when you get into real estate. There's a lot of different avenues you can go. Should I wholesale? Should I buy rental property? Should I do fix and flips? What we have to remember is that when you're taking action, everyone's starting from a different place. Some people may have a great income, some money in the bank, and great credit, but they don't have time to do deals. You might have somebody that maybe just lost their job but doesn't have much money, but they're really good at finding deals. Everyone's starting in a different place, so really you got to identify what is it that you want from this business. Do you want to create some income? Do you want to create some passive cash flow? What is it that you want? And then make your goals according to that, and then take the action to get there.
Yeah, I'll just say this. I don't have the problem with not taking action. I've got the opposite problem where I'll take action before I aim my rifle. What is that? Ready, aim, or ready, fire, aim?
Yep, something like that.
I've had that problem, and it's gotten me into some trouble. But look, because I'm so willing to take action, I've made a lot of money, and I've created a lot of cool things and really exciting things in my life, and I've got a great life, and it's because I'm just not afraid to take the action. Now, I do understand that there is some fear there. So one thing that might help overcome that fear is look, I've fallen on my face plenty of times. I know you have too, Travis, and you look at any of the famous rich people, they've all fallen and had to get back up to be successful. The self-made millionaires and billionaires, they don't just do things mistake-free. They have to make mistakes to be successful. It is essential. It's a requirement. You are going to make mistakes. It has to happen. So why don't you just go out and do it? Go out and make those mistakes. There's nothing to worry about. You already know you're going to screw it up.
Sometimes making that mistake and getting it done, it might cost you less than some of the programs that we see people buy. So I think we need to just jump to the next slide so we can stop the recording, but we can still answer questions. So we're going to stop the recording so we can load this up, but we're going to continue to answer questions. So please feel free to continue typing those in. Once again, if you want to contact us, phone number is right there on the screen, and you can email Kevin or I, Travis at pinefinancialgroup.com, and Kevin at pinefinancialgroup.com. So we do have 2 more questions that came in, and the first question is, do you lend on out-of-state properties? The answer is yes and no. Yes, there's 3 markets that we lend in. Up and down the Front Range in Colorado, we lend in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and we also lend in the Washington, D.C. metro area. We do not, however, offer loans like on some of these turnkey things you're seeing in Indianapolis, Kansas City, St. Louis, that type of stuff. Another question here. They ask how to access this webinar later. We will upload it to our YouTube channel, and the best way there is if you just go to YouTube and search Pine Financial Group. There's a couple of other webinars that we've done there, and you can see this one there.
But it might take us a little while to get it up there because we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, certainly won't be up tomorrow, not with us running it. Okay, the other one appears to be more of a comment than a question, so we'll just take that down. If you have, if there's anyone else out there with a question, please feel free to type it in. You've got us for a few more minutes, and this is probably your best access to us. Both of us are pretty busy during the day. We'll do all we can to help you, but you've got us right now to answer any questions you might have. So please feel free to type those in. We'll give you just a few more minutes. Here's a question somebody asked, was that they want to be successful in each kind of investing, then focusing on 1 or 2 that has the best risk benefit of time and money. Well, the challenge there, I guess, is that in the beginning you could be so spread out, right? You see the course on wholesaling, you want to jump in, you want to wholesale. Then you see the course on lease option, and then subject to, and then fix and flip. You really have to identify what it is that you want to achieve and what it is you're looking for, and then you can go from there to focus on what is going to be the best deals for you. The best risk benefit and time time and money, you know, that's up to each person. Has a different set of skills that's going to help them there.
Yeah, I want to jump in on that one real quick. So I think you said that they have, and maybe you could tell me again, but I think that he or she said that they're trying to be good at everything and then switch to, yeah, and that's the opposite way you should be thinking about this. I think you should learn a little bit about everything so you have a direction, and then you should get really good at one and then really good at 2, and then keep adding to your toolbox and get good at everything. Not everything, but as much as you can. But if you focus on getting good at everything, you'll be good at nothing. So I started in the business trying to be a short sale expert, and I actually wasn't so bad at it, but it wasn't producing the income that I wanted, and I shifted over to lease options and subject tos, and I became successful that way. So it wasn't even my first go at this that I got it right. It was my second attempt, or not my second attempt, my second thing I was focusing on. I failed a lot at the short sales, by the way, but the lease options is really what worked for me.
Somebody said, thank you for doing the webinar. We thank you for being on the webinar. Kevin, let me ask you this one. What's the easiest thing to start with?
Oh gosh, I mean, I could just tell you what was easiest for me, and I did just mention that, but the lease options were the easiest for me, and the reason for that is it's extremely easy to explain to sellers. It's easy to sell. I was getting a lot of deals. It's easy to market for because you can buy properties that have very little or no equity in it, and you don't need cash or credit or any of that. And frankly, if you structure the deals correctly, you don't even need reserves. Now, I can't believe I just said that, but you should always have reserves. But you can structure these where you can get deals and you could create your own reserves with option considerations and delayed payments to the seller, start collecting rent before you have payments to them and that kind of thing. So I was completely broke. I was in college. I was putting myself through college. I could barely eat. I didn't have food. I started dating this girl back then, and she opened my fridge, and there was like a half a keg of beer and a can of green beans, and that's all the food that was in my house. She still gives me crap for that, but you don't need money or credit, so that's why I like the lease option strategy. Now, of course, as a hard money lender, I would also like you to explore the fix and flip and see if that's an option for you as well.
Yeah, and just I'll jump in there too. The first deal I did was a fix and flip. I pretty quickly realized I thought fix and flips were too much work, and then I transitioned into doing rental properties because I really enjoyed collecting rent. Doing this on the first of the month, these guys give me a hard time. Tenants come in, they drop the rent off. I'm jumping up and down because I can't believe how much money somebody will pay me to live in a property that I had such a low basis on. So it really depends on what you want to accomplish. Question about what title company do we endorse for warranty deeds? Because I don't know what area you're in, all I would suggest to you is to work with a title company maybe you've done something with in the past, you've done a closing for something, and my biggest qualifier for title companies is that they have fresh baked cookies and Mountain Dew for me. If they have those two things, I'll work with that title company.
What about Twinkies? There's one in Denver that
Twinkies,
has that, isn't there?
yeah, Twinkies, I don't know, those Otis Spunkmeyer cookies seem to do the trick. Someone's got to go. Thanks so much. Here's a question, Kevin. With the DC and Colorado markets being number 1 and 2 in appreciation over the last 25 years, how does this affect your lending criteria? For example, you might be riskier because of the appreciation.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, I didn't know that they were 1 and 2. Is that interesting that we picked those two markets to lend in?
Yeah.
I know Denver is number 1 right now, but over 25 years I wasn't aware of that, so that's good to know. Does it affect our lending? Not really. You know, our loans are such a short time. We typically will write our loan for 6 to 9 months. It's 6 months in DC. It's 9 months in Colorado and Minnesota. We don't really see a lot of market movement in that shorter period of time, so we haven't. I mean, our tolerance for that is pretty high. So I don't see a lot of risk in what we do. Now, if you're holding rental properties and you're worried about a bubble, which it kind of sounds like that was the concern, then maybe that would be a concern. But for what we do, and that was the question, I'm not worried about the appreciation.
Two questions here, both of them about lending outside of the Twin Cities in Minnesota. One of them is asking about some specific areas, the other one about Rochester. I would love to make loans in Rochester. We've made a couple just right there in the surrounding area. We're having trouble finding a solid appraiser there, but if you're doing deals in Rochester, please send me an email. Travis, Travis, at pinefinancialgroup.com, and I'd love to further that conversation or give me a call here at the office. For the other guy that asked about if we're doing loans outside of the Twin Cities, we'll look at anything that makes sense as long as it's in an area close enough for our inspectors and we have an appraiser in the area. So if you're doing deals that are slightly out of the Twin Cities but aren't all the way over in Moorhead, let's talk about it. Give us a call. How about, is wholesaling a good option if I have limited time and sufficient cash?
So I'm sorry, what was that again? I thought you
No
were.
problem. Is wholesaling a good option if I have limited time and sufficient cash?
I would think no. I would think it was the opposite. If you had a lot of time and a little bit of cash, wholesaling is a good strategy. You don't need cash to do wholesaling, so that's not going to help you at all if that's the asset you're bringing to the table. Time is really what you need to wholesale because it takes time to go out and meet with sellers, get your marketing campaigns up and running, making your offers, all of that. So if you've got cash and not a lot of time, your best strategy is going to be something that's extremely passive where you could use your asset, which is that cash. So it might be private lending. We could maybe talk to you about helping you out with that. It might be partner on someone that's doing some fix and flips or something that's a little bit more capital intensive and just taking a piece of the deal that way. But I would focus on more of a passive role than an active role if you're limited on time.
Cool. Another guy asks, how can they learn more about the lease option strategy? Probably not the best to talk about tonight, but maybe we could do a webinar in the future that kind of talks about what that process looks
Our
like.
blog I've written several articles on that, and I do have a book coming out that we'll introduce down the road. Well, I'll send an email out about that. But yeah, definitely go to our blog and see what's out there for that.
Somebody asks, and two questions similar here. So if we use Pine for acquiring and then refinance with another lender to keep it as a rental, that's how I bought most of my rental properties, was purchasing with hard money, repairing the property, put a tenant in it, and then refinance it for the long-term hold. That way, I could buy the property with as little money out of pocket using a high leverage loan on the front end, and then I would refinance it with a direct Fannie Freddie lender with no title seasoning. I think the fastest I was able to do one of these was about 55 days. Bought it, fixed it, put a tenant in it, and refinanced it. Although the hard money does have an added cost, it significantly lowers your cash out of pocket so that you can get cash flowing right away on the deal. So the best way to do that is find deals that almost fit the criteria for fix and flip, and then instead of flipping them, you simply refinance them. You just want to make sure you're in a price point that the rent will support the cash flow you require for the payment. Let's see here. We have another one here. Just started as a realtor 8 months ago. What's a good way to speed myself up knowledgeable with potential investors? Is there a crash seminar or website to check out? If you're just jumping in the business as an agent, Kevin, correct me if you think this is not right, but you got to meet as many people as you can. You got to go to networking events, get in front of as many people as you can and say, hey, I want to help investors. Now, as an agent newer to the business, you got to be a little careful with investors because they can be your best income source. Because what does the National Association of Realtors say? People typically move every 5 to 7 years. So do you want to do a transaction with somebody every 5 to 7 years, or do you want to do a transaction a month with somebody? So if you can find solid investors that can close every time, then you're going to be better off working with investors. Of course, you always want to diversify your business a little bit in case the market changes, but I would suggest that you just meet with as many people as possible in your networking, on and offline, and connect with as many investors as you can. Try to get an understanding of what they're doing, and then go find deals that fit that criteria and bring it to them. Too often we see realtors who are really good realtors with traditional real estate, but they don't understand investing at all. They don't understand the spreads, the costs, the risk, etc. And so you need to separate yourself from those people and show that you can bring solid deals. And somebody asked if we have people contacting our office looking for fix and flip money partners. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking for there, but since we lend money, I don't think we'd be connecting them with you, but we certainly have people looking for money partners, and we tend to fill that money partner slot.
Yeah, but we will. I mean, all of our money is private equity. So if you're interested in getting some money out there, I'm not saying that we will or can work with you, but let's talk about it and let's see where it goes.
Yep. If you have money that you're interested in doing private lending, Kevin's even got some information on that he could share, some ways to protect yourself. So if you have money you're looking to get out, we'd love to talk to you. Any other questions before we wrap it up? My pipeline is empty here of questions. We'll give maybe just another minute for somebody to type something in, and we'll handle them. And if not, we'll close the call in just a minute or so. I want to thank everybody for being on the call. As Kevin mentioned in the beginning, we do this on the first Tuesday of every month. And after we record them, we load them up on our YouTube channel in the next couple of days. And there's the previous webinars are there. Of course, we'd love for you to join us live so that we can answer your questions, but hope that you find this to be of some value. I'm not getting any other questions that are coming in here, except for somebody telling us how great we are, and we certainly appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely read that one.
So thank you all for being on the call. We don't see any other questions here. Please feel free to contact our office if there's something we covered that we could maybe help you out with. We'd love an opportunity to fund your deals if you're in the areas that we're lending money. And Kevin, any closing remarks or anything you want to share?
I do want to, I guess, clear one thing up quickly. We do try to put a lot of these on our YouTube channel, and this one we'll definitely try to get up there. But I just so appreciate you guys giving up your evening and coming out here and being on the call live and listening to us. And we just have so much fun doing this, and it's so much more fun when we get good questions like we got tonight, and we could participate and help you. So I want to say that we will try to get most of these up on the YouTube channel so you can listen to them later, but not all of them will go up on YouTube channel, and we encourage you to come live. So we appreciate you guys that did make it live, and we want to encourage you to come each month and listen to us live.
Very good. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great night.